All right, this morning or today, depending on when you're watching this, we have head coach of Princeton Tigers, Dusty Litvak. Dusty, thanks for being on the show, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You have had a tremendous run. 6 titles, 7 years. The NCAA seems like commonplace for you at this point. You're there every year. It's like another trip to the West Coast. But this year was a little bit different for you. Talk to us about this year. I know you lost a game to Harvard. You were able to come all the way back. You had a tougher road trip in the West Coast. You're a young team this year, very different team than last year. Talk to us about the road to the NCAA for Princeton Tigers this year.
Yeah, I think you hit it. We graduated a lot of talent and a lot of guys because of the guys coming back for an extra year. Because of COVID, we had a larger than normal senior class. We had 10 seniors last year, which is not normal for an Ivy League school. And 7 of those recruited through walk-ons and some really significant pieces of our team for the previous 4 years. So to lose those guys, and then we were excited. We were excited to see. I think we knew we had a lot of talent on our team that didn't have a chance to shine, maybe, and to give them their opportunity in the spotlight. And so some of those athletes have really risen, and that's been exciting to see. And I think more than anything, the growth of this team has been incredible. I mean, we've had some bumps this year, and we've hit the injury bug and the illness bug like every other team. And we've, lost some games we feel like we would like another shot at.
Sure.
But I feel like, we're playing our best water polo right now. And I don't know if I could necessarily say that the last couple of years heading into this tournament. I think that, with some of the pressure on the team in the previous years, maybe we peaked a little early or I don't know. So it's exciting because I feel like we absolutely played our best game in that final against Harvard that we've played this year so far and in so many different ways. And so this year has been more about growth and development and giving the guys, both the young guys, the new guys, but also a lot of the returners, just more opportunities. And that's been great.
Well, that and the injuries have really, look, they've hurt in certain games, but you come out on top, you win the Northeast Conference. How is that going to maybe help and play a role in coming years? I know Kovac was out for a little bit. You had some other, I think Otto was out for a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Has that helped develop the team to maybe more depth than you anticipated?
Yeah, we're never a program that's going to be solely reliant on 1 or 2 players.
Sure.
When we had Rocco, you could see how it kind of dispersed a lot of our stats were. And you look at our stats this year, and it's there's so many guys really close together, and that's kind of who we are. To lose Kristoff heading into that California week when we're playing 6 games in 8 days against UCLA, USC, et cetera. That was a tough role for Pierre, our freshman goalie, to step into, and really his first game all year to play UCLA at that point undefeated, but he developed so much in that week that honestly, that helped too, that we knew if, we beat Long Beach and Irvine. We were up, I think, 5-6-1 on Irvine at halftime with a freshman goalie in there who hadn't had much experience at that point.
Yeah.
So even that stuff, I think, really helps us know that if, somebody goes out, other guys can step up. And Otto being out, Otto's had an excellent year for us. And, but we have guys that can post up, that can play center, like Logan McCarroll and Gavin Appledore. And obviously Luke Johnston is a traditional center. I think this year has also been about guys playing different positions. Finn Lasser has been playing a lot of center defender for us, and he's not a
normal position for Finn, but shows his versatility.
100%. And he had an unbelievable final against Harvard. And it's taken away a little bit from his offense maybe, but that just kind of shows, again, the sacrifices these guys are willing to make. And it's all about, the result. I couldn't be more proud of these guys for what we've accomplished this year and a really tough schedule. I started off with Pro Reco and FTC. Doesn't get much tougher than that. And then we're happy to be back at the tournament, but it's something that we don't want to just be there. We want to compete.
Yeah, and you got a tough slate with UCLA, of course. You get another shot at them. I want to talk about 2 players that were really highlights. You have a lot of very good players. This isn't to say anything about everybody else on the team, but Taylor Bell, I think, is the best American freshman in the country. There's obviously a lot of talented foreigners in Perrone and Kainoe and Louis Schuler. There's a lot, right? Luka Kirstich, or Strahina Kirstich, excuse me.
Yeah.
But Taylor Bell, talk to us about his impact coming in as a freshman, leading the team in goals. He's, I think, 2nd or 3rd on the team in assists. What has that been like to have a freshman come in and just be such a force?
Yeah, I mean, I think I may have mentioned this in our preseason preview. I feel like
Yeah.
Taylor was a steal of the draft. I think some other schools missed out on him.
Yeah.
He was a late ad for us. We thought we were only going to get 3 supports for that class, and because we absolutely needed a goalie and a center
Yeah.
and a defender, we didn't have a space for an attacker, and we ended up getting a 4th support like late in December. And Taylor and I had been in communication, for a long time, and we knew what he could do for us. And then when I saw what he did this summer for Mission, kind
Yeah.
of a younger Mission team. And he was just kind of carrying them a lot. That was pretty incredible to watch. So I was excited, and he showed up at training camp in shape. And, he's so intelligent. His
Yeah.
dad's a coach. He played for Red Ormsby.
Yeah.
He's just like our system is similar. So I think the expectations were high when he arrived. I think honestly, sometimes I forget he's a freshman.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Sure.
I think I get on him a little bit and he looks at me like, hey, this is my first year. I'm
Yeah.
going to make some mistakes. And
Yeah.
I forget because of, just how intelligent he is and how much he does for us that, yeah, it actually is his first year. And maybe I should cut some more slack sometimes, but he just reads the game so well. He's so versatile. He can do so many different things. He plays way bigger than his size. He's an excellent shooter, and defender on that right side of the pool for us. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough for me to say he's exceeded expectations, even though in a lot of ways he has, just because my expectations for him were so high coming in.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough. Steal of the draft. I love that because he wasn't really part of the National League system in last spring. Nobody really knew a whole lot about him. What a pickup for you. What a find. And then JP Ol leading your team in assists in his final year. I watched him when we were in New York. I've watched as many games as I can of yours. He is just, for a senior to have this kind of influence, because we see so many younger players that the IVs have such a big impact. For a senior to stay in this kind of shape, have 81 assists this year. I mean, talk to us about that, because that has to be huge for your program to have a leader like that in his final year, is my understanding, and continuing to contribute the way that he has been.
Yeah, obviously, it's a very talented water polo family. I think sometimes JP gets overlooked a little bit, that his younger brothers get a lot of the attention. And obviously, Ryan and Connor are very good and have been part of the national team system. And JP is a different kind of player. And honestly, his personality outside the pool is exactly what it is inside the pool. Like, he loves to be there. He is so fired up about practice.
He looks like he's having fun, man.
Yeah, I mean, he always wants to have fun, and he is an exceptional passer, but he's also a great shooter. He really is, and sometimes I have to remind him about that, because I do think he's, some lefties you find are very shoot first, and he's a pass first lefty, but he really is just everything I can do to make my teammates better. That's all I care about. I just want everybody else around me to kind of get involved, to feel good. He's the same way out of the water. He's the first guy everybody goes to if they have a problem. He's definitely the guy reaching out to everybody to make sure they're okay, whether it's the first years all the way through his, his own peers and seniors. He just cares so much about his teammates. And I think that shows in the pool and the way that he is such a facilitator. And he's just like, he's like, reads the pool and tries to make the best decision each time. And I think the biggest growth that he's shown from the previous 3 years to this year, number one, defensively, but number two is that I think while he had a lot of assists the last 3 years, he had a lot of turnovers. He just forced a lot. And I think he's doing a much better job now of kind of being a little more patient and not finding that like tiny little seam that maybe I could squeeze the ball in there, but more so like, is this the best option on this possession? If not, let's keep going. And that's been a tremendous growth for him, is limiting the turnovers while still, as you said, maintaining, an extremely high assist ratio.
Yeah, I mean, 81 assists, and it's incredible. Just, I don't care who you play for. That's an incredible number. He's also shooting 53% based on these stats. So, yeah, maybe shoot a little more. I hear you. Well, really cool. You've obviously got young talent. You've got some older talent. And now you're making your way to the West Coast. You get UCLA in your first round. Last year you had Stanford. You dropped that one. That was a tough one. Wasn't the same Princeton team I thought I'd seen throughout the year. Just looked a little bit offbeat. How are you changing that this year, coming in playing UCLA, who's coming off a loss to USC?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. 2 years ago, we made the Final Four. We were able to, we played UC Irvine in the first round. So, and then we were able to not just get to the Final Four, but we were tied with UCLA in the fourth quarter of that semifinal game at 10-10, I think with 4 or 5 minutes to go, and then, ran out of gas a little bit. So I think last year, a couple things, one, as I said, I think we put a lot more pressure on ourselves throughout the season to get results, whether it was against Pacific or when we played UCLA earlier in the year, or SC.
Took them to overtime. We took UCLA to overtime with the MPSF invite that first weekend.
Yeah, we won and won against Cal. So I don't know. I think we just put a lot more pressure on ourselves during the season, and maybe we didn't put ourselves in the best position to peak at the right time.
Sure.
We also, the final last year was interesting. We kind of ran away with it, and I don't think that really helped us in a certain way. Sure. And this year, we were much more challenged, I think, in the final by Harvard. And I think just, again, the growth and development of this team throughout the season in terms of we've been in so many 1-goal games. We've experienced a whole lot. We know that UCLA is exceptionally talented, of course. They were the preseason favorites, and I think some people still consider them the favorites, them in SC. So we're going to be well prepared for what they have, but ultimately, we have to execute. It really doesn't matter. I think I'm obviously very familiar with their system, having coached with Adam and coached there for a few years, and they're just. It's not like they're doing anything crazy. It's just they're very good at what they do, and you have to try to do everything you can to limit it and hope that they're maybe a little bit off that day and we have, a better day. But I think, we also know last time we played them, Kristoff wasn't there. And again, no offense to Pierre, but it was his first game, and that's not a fair first game for anybody.
It's a pretty rough first game is to go against an undefeated UCLA team with 2 Olympians and a few more hopefuls. Yeah,
exactly. So, I mean, this couple weeks has really been about ourselves, and then, doing everything we can to, neutralize, UCLA's counterattack, which I think is the most potent part of their offense. And if we can try to contain them, and not that they aren't extremely dangerous in the front court as well. But I think that if you can neutralize the counterattack, you give yourselves a better chance. And they're in incredible shape, and they're so well conditioned. And, if it wasn't, Adam and Jason, the rest of them, I would say, hopefully they're looking past us, but I don't think that's something that they do. So
I don't think Adam lets this team look past.
No way.
So, okay, fair enough. Talk to us about that Harvard win. That was a big win for you guys. They were a good team this year. I candidly think better than last year for whatever reason. They just played more cohesive. They had guys playing out of position, similar to you. But what was that like to beat them? Six championships in 7 seasons. I'm just in awe.
Yeah, I mean, the guys, I think Luke Johnston, one of our captains, brought that up kind of on the so we had traveled up to Harvard 2 weeks prior, and we kind of had to beat Harvard and Brown and MIT to secure that 1 seed, which is important in our conference.
Yeah, because you get the bye there.
The bye, and in the semifinal, we're not playing Brown, and again, that's not a knock on MIT or Iona or those other teams, but, it's different. So I think after that, though, Luke had made a comment to the guys, hey, we don't want to be the team, that kind of ends the streak. And I don't know if I would have gone there, but I think that's what his mindset was. And look, first, a lot of credit to Ted Minnis and his staff and what they did when they graduated, what they did. And then Rosales Hill decides to take this year off. I think everybody kind of counted them out. They had a couple losses early in the season. But they rallied, and like you said, team chemistry really, really matters in any team sport. So even if you take away really talented pieces, if the guys buy in and they believe, and what the culture is and what their expectations are, and that Harvard team really rallied, and that was impressive to see. And I told my guys, because we were up, I think 5, maybe even 6 in that final game at one point. I said, these guys don't give up. They just don't give up. Don't think for a second they're going to stop playing. And they got it back to 2, and had opportunities to get it back to 1. And so I was really happy that when they did cut it back to 2, we scored twice quickly. We responded almost every time they scored on us, which was huge for us, and just our resilience, something we've talked about a lot this year, and kind of not focusing on what just happened or what may be happening, later in the game, but really staying present and responding. And I thought we responded extremely well in that game. And it's really hard to play from behind. It's really exhausting. And so
it's so tiring.
A depleted roster. They had to play, Brown in a close game the day before. We knew that was going to wear on them a bit. And then to have to always play from behind and never really be able to even tie the game, I think that's frustrating. So for us to be able to keep that distance, I think was very helpful. And then we were in serious foul trouble that game. We had Appledorn with too early, Finn Lasser with too early, Otto with too early. Our other defender, Luka Franilovic, fouled out. I think I'm forgetting even about someone else. So we had a lot of guys have to play different positions. Logan McCarroll had to defend for us. He hasn't defended for us all year. So that was also just kind of, I think, a good test for us to see, what we could do through some adversity.
Yeah. And here you are, right? You're coming up against UCLA. You're getting another berth. So congratulations, man. It's really an honor to have you on. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you guys have such a short week. Good luck this weekend. Any closing thoughts for you?
No, I mean, again, I appreciate you giving the sport the exposure that you are. And I think this is a really exciting weekend. Of course, everybody, there's 8 teams left and everybody's looking forward to this. I think, a couple of things I think are interesting to me. I think every team minus Fordham has some sort of coaching tie to UCLA or USC. I think that's interesting. Whether it's obviously UCLA and USC themselves, but Stanford, you have Flax and Farmer who went to UCLA, and Justin Johnson at Concordia went to UCLA. I coached at UCLA. Dan Layson, you could put in either at the UCLA or the SC bucket. Yeah. And then Gabor, at SC. So it's just interesting, that's what it is. And as talented as those programs are, and as good as the season as Stanford's had this year, I'm hopeful somebody else wins it. Obviously I'm hopeful that we do, but I don't know, what this is going to look like, but I think it's it can only help our sport if it's a little more unpredictable, and if there's other teams having, success. And so if it's not us this weekend, I hope it's one of those other teams. That's who I'm pulling for. No offense to my buddies at UCLA, but that's our first round game. So
fair enough. I think upsets in sports are good. That's why March Madness is the most popular collegiate sporting event, right? Is because upsets are so exciting. We need that more in our sport. And USC, UCLA, hate to hear that, but the truth is we need teams 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to be competitive and have a shot. It's a tougher game because it's a little more controlled in the water. That doesn't mean we can't do it. So certainly hear you on that. And it's funny you bring up the coaching tree. I was talking about that this past weekend. And it's interesting how it's basically the Jovan Wright, Jovan Vavic and Adam Wright coaching trees that have really developed this country, and a lot of guys in positions because of those two. So credit to them. Yeah. Adam Wright. And Jovan Vavic. So Dusty, thank you so much. Travel safe, my man. Good luck this weekend. We'll see you on the deck on Friday. But I appreciate you taking the time.
Of course. Thank you.
Sure.